Everyone's patience. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the June 27th TEA LEA webinar. We've got a couple items on our agenda. I did want to do a little bit of housekeeping in the beginning, and just to remind everyone that this is a webinar, that the chat has been disabled, but the Q&A feature is open. So questions and answers that come in for both Kelly and Ed today, I will share with them. Oftentimes, you're not going to get a direct answer response, but the questions really help guide us on any further explanation, any updates to Q&A. So please submit questions as you feel relevant. So we are recording this. It usually takes about 2 or 3 days, and then the recording will be posted to the website where you see all of our webinars. So we appreciate that. And so my name is Ana Mondragon. I didn't say who I was. And we've got 2 people with us today, Kelly Goodman and Ed O'Neill. Kelly is sharing a PowerPoint that will be posted on the website along with the recording. I just wanted to kind of give you that heads up that you will be able to get that information as well. So Kelly, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Perfect. All right, let me share my screen here. All right, so again, just like Anna said, my name is Kelly Goodman. My official title is I'm the Director of Strategy and Outreach, but I'm also the Director of the SSES, now known as the PDSES program, which is the main point of why I'm here to talk to y'all today. And so this is the SSES program that's been around since 2020. I'm sure Ed remembers the good old days of that starting out when he was still a big part of that. It has now changed its name, official as of May 28th, to the PDSES, or the Parent Directed Special Education Services. You'll start to see everything on the website be updated, but as far as like outreach deliverables and all of those things, but the website has changed. If you still type in SSES, you're still going to get to the same website. But this name has changed to better reflect the importance of parents as decision makers in the educational process. Along with that, we also changed a few other things that I'm going to kind of walk y'all through today as far as rule. So again, change the name, as well as change the word supplemental. So it said like supplemental material, supplemental services, all those things now say parent-directed services, parent-directed materials throughout rule. We also clarified and added language to where the students who receive proportionate share through their LEAs are not eligible. This is only about 6,000 or 7,000 students, we think, based off of their attendance code and their instructional setting and the fact that they have a disability, they have an IEP. So we added language to clarify that students also must be served at their LEA through their IEP to kind of remove those students there. We will also have an annual application window. As I'm sure y'all know, we closed the application on March 15th for the first time. It's been nice to have it closed for a little bit for all of us. But we will reopen it on February 3rd of 2025. And then it will be open for about 6 weeks, which I'll talk a little bit more about. But now that is in rule as well. And then the last one, which y'all probably didn't even know we did this, but we used to reprocess applications. So we would just reprocess one final time at the end of April, and ineligible applications were notified. So they can either appeal, which has not changed. You can still appeal if you're ineligible. And if they choose not to appeal, they just have to reapply the following year. We'll kick out all the denied or all the ineligibles so that they'll be able to reapply during the following school year's application window. But this is a change. So when we reprocess, some of these applications we reprocess were like 2 and 3 years old. And so we are no longer going to reprocess. It's just going to be, if you are denied, you'll have about 6 to 8 months to appeal. And if you choose not to appeal, then you can go through the process of applying again the following year. The last change, this one is highlighted here in blue for y'all. And so this is the last kind of section of rule, second to last section, that says what is the ARD committee's responsibility. And so like we've done in the past, we've provided a list to the LEA, to the SPED director, the one that's listed in Ask TED. We send out a list of all of the eligible students that have not applied for SSES, PDSES previously. So now this kind of adds to that. So if you have that list and you're going into an ARD committee, you can look at that list and see that little Johnny already received his account. So during that ARD committee, you do not have to mention it to that family. But if you don't see Johnny on the list, mention the PDSES program, tell them how to apply. And now we've also added telling them also about the application window. I'll talk a little bit more about this list, this form that we have that TEA will also help with notifications. But the ARD committee ultimately still has the responsibility to inform parents of the PDSES program. All right, a couple other just additional details, not really having to do with rule, but we do still have some families on our wait list. We are slowly kind of funding them in batches. We're about to award another 9,000 here in the next couple weeks, which will still leave about 12-ish thousand, 15,000 to still be awarded throughout 2024. They will still be technically SSES, right? Because they applied under the SSES application. Those new accounts, they've been notified of the name change in their award emails. But here's the kicker. Eligibility has not changed other than the little proportionate share group. But it's the same students who are eligible for SSES are still eligible for PDSES, public school, served under or served through special education. However, if the family has already received an SSES grant, they're not eligible. This is not new. This is the same, just with a new name. And so that's going to be something we really have to kind of like hone in with parents, is they're going to be confused, as are some of us, that this sounds like a new program, and they're going to think it's a new funding bucket, and it's not. So if they've already received an SSES account, they will not be eligible for a PDSES grant. Again, lastly, this is based off of statute here and rule, but anything that you see that says SSES means PDSES. We're working hard to change it all, but we haven't changed it all yet. And so all that stuff will be coming out during the fall school year. All right, as I said before, the application is closed. SSES application is closed, never to be opened again. But the new PDSES application will open on February 3rd and will be open for about 6 weeks. Last year, we learned our lesson. We closed it on the Friday that I swear 90% of the LEAs in Texas had spring break. So this year, if we find that that 6th week is going to be on spring break, there's a good chance we're at least going to move it to the next week. We see in our application trends that LEAs are for sure helping families. We receive far more applications Monday through Friday than we do on Saturdays and Sundays. And so in an effort to help y'all, help us, help all of our technical assistance team, we're going to try to not close it on spring break this year, at least for the majority of the LEAs. Again, in the fall, y'all will receive more guidance. Hopefully, probably this will be October-ish, maybe early November, about more guidance, how to apply. It's going to be a different application that we will make sure y'all know how to help families with. And we'll provide one-pagers and anything we can to help the parents as well. I will also present to y'all again. Y'all get to hear me once again in October-ish. That's also when we'll provide LEAs another list of their eligible students. So y'all can start, however y'all want to start messaging that to your families as well. This is the interest form I was talking about. It's on our website in several different places. If you go to this main PDSES website, click on just learn more or find out more, and then just scroll down. They're real simple. This is a form. It's pretty quick. We do ask for additional information just because we want to know who's filling out this form. So like today, we already have almost like, I wrote it down, almost 7,000 form submissions. And we've only had this open since the application closed in mid-March. But we will send out, TA will send out up to 5 emails saying, hey, 2 months before you apply, here's how to start applying. Here's what you can do ahead of time. And so like if your ARD facilitator wants to start directing families to fill this out, that counts as her, hey, we told you about the application window. We told you about the how to apply, and then TA will kind of take it from there with those emails. We also recommend other stakeholders signing up for this as well, because then you're also learning about the information, and any, messaging that we send out to y'all can pass on to your families. All right. That's the end of me.
Awesome. I figured this would be a good time to put in a little extra plug to LEAs to please make sure your Ask TED is updated. So much information from the state comes through that contact that's in Ask TED. So when there's changes within district leadership and then Ask TED might not be updated, please make sure it's updated, because a lot of stuff that we send out comes through that listserv. So I figured it'd be a good time to plug that.
Great plug, for sure.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Kelly. And just again, a reminder, that presentation that she had provided will be along with the recording on the website in a few days. So thank you, Ed, this afternoon for joining us as well.
So mine's actually going to be really quick. but I'll actually show, share my screen. So what I'm talking through today is, I'm just going to show everyone where we've posted up the next cyclical schedule. So if you go, here we go. If you go on the DMS website where you can see the monitoring guide, the desk review, even where you could see the previous cyclical calendars, you'll actually scroll down and now there's this new bright orange icon to show you. And we published everything for the next 6-year cycle that obviously starts not this school year, but the next school year with the 25-26 school year. And you can actually click and go to your region. And we actually broke it up by region instead of cycles. So what I mean is, like, I'll just randomly pick region 9. Region 9 is all together. So instead of going to cycle 1 and like trying to see who's in cycle 1, you can actually just go to the region that you're in, if you're curious, and see like everyone in your region. We made some changes to the cyclical schedule, but they did not really impact LEAs that don't already know that they're impacted. And what I mean when I say that is we got stakeholder feedback from a few different groups. And one of the requests we got was really for those districts and LEAs that are in shared service agreements, or SSAs. And the request that we got is because SSAs share staff, that we avoid having members of an SSA in the same group within the same group. So, there were times over the last 5 years that, an SSA might have 2 members or potentially even 3 members within the same, maybe they were in cycle 2, group 3 together. So what we did, and we worked with the data team, is we were able to make it so that doesn't happen anymore. That's not to say that an SSA might not have multiple members within the same cycle. So they might have members in cycle 1 and cycle 3, or group 1 and group 3, or group 2 and group 3, but they don't have multiple members in the same group. And we worked with the ESCs through the spring to make any edits that we were aware of potentially to SSAs, so we could capture that. Obviously, once we get into moving forward, if 2 years from now 7 LEAs come together and decide to make a new SSA, we're just from a capacity standpoint and change, we're not going to start modifying the schedule in that way, but we did make all the changes we could going into the year. So with that, it did cause us to do some rebalancing, but that rebalancing may have changed people's groups, but no one's cycle changed. So, some LEAs may see that they were previously in cycle 4, group 1, and now they're cycle 4, group 2. Or, they were previously in cycle 6, group 3, and now they're cycle 6, group 1. We were able to make the adjustments to balance LEAs so that we didn't have, a bunch of giant LEAs all together at the same time, which creates a kind of a capacity issue for everyone. So we were able to make those adjustments to fulfill what the SSA LEAs were asking without having it impact other people. Some other things that are small changes that we made, Texas School for the Deaf, TSVBI, they were on Texas Juvenile Justice, TJJD. They were all on a different schedule, and that was something we kind of inherited when we came to TEA. And when I say we, I mean like Jennifer, Alexander, and I, and worked to build the new monitoring. So that kind of calendar existed pre-2018, and they were on a whole model of cycles. So going into this year, going into the next phase, we actually dropped them in, so they will be in the 6-year cycle as well. So for them, it might be in a different order, but they're aware of that and understand how that's working, and it's that's a benefit to them. Some rules we kept, so we'll do the same. We'll approach any new LEAs that are formed, and that's generally charter schools. We look at how to place them within the cycles based on like needs and region. We'll continue to do that, and we've been effective in that. And that's really the plan. So again, it's already posted, it's already up. Hopefully your ESCs have shared it out, because we've had it up since the beginning of June, like we promised we would. So this is where you get it in, and like I said, it's everything. So it's all it's everything that you see. We did a lot of verification. We had multiple people look at it. We've shared it out to multiple stakeholder groups and the ESCs. If you find an error, please let me know. I hope you don't find an error. We worked really hard to, like, you know, I would feel horrible too. Like if somehow we like misspelled your district, please let me know that too. We can fix that. But you know, we feel pretty confident that we're not missing any districts. We feel pretty confident we didn't duplicate any districts, that you're not being up for monitoring twice. I think we would have been notified for that if somebody got popped twice for cyclical. But yeah, this is the schedule. And again, it'll implement for not this coming school year, the following school year. And through the fall, we will, you know, kind of through this fall and into the spring, I'll come on these webinars and a couple other times with Lori Merrill as well. And we'll talk about some of the other adjustments we're making as we look at the next phase of monitoring. Some adjustments we're having to make because of the OSEP guidance that came out last summer, and some things like that. And just some adjustments we want to make to just process, you know, like targeted monitoring and adjusting the criteria we use for targeted monitoring and how we select targeted monitoring. We'll talk about that. We've been really involved with like the SPED director panel on that, getting feedback on how to set those criteria and what those criteria look like. So we'll talk through that. We don't anticipate significant changes to cyclical monitoring. We've done a lot of data analysis to look at you know, how that worked and how successful it was as far as, you know, representative samples and things like that. And the data that our data team has demonstrated to us is, you know, when we started this, we selected the file criteria using an 80% confidence interval, excuse me, because we have districts, obviously, with as many as 2 or 3 students with disabilities, all the way up to districts with 19,000 students with disabilities. So how can we balance that across districts? And at least so far, all the data we keep running to test our samples are effective. And that's both ways. There isn't anything that evidences to us that we need to increase the size of our samples, our poll samples, which I know no one would be excited about, but there's also not evidence to support it would be in our best interest to reduce the sample sizes that we pull. So, but we'll talk more about that through the spring, or excuse me, through the fall and spring this coming school year as we get ready to go into the next phase of monitoring with the future school year. But yeah, please, if you catch any errors, if we missed anything, you know, please absolutely email me or Lori or you know, Anna, and she can get it to us, and we can just, you know, edit it really fast and republish the link. But I feel fairly confident that we captured everything that we were supposed to, and appreciated the feedback from the different stakeholder groups that worked with us to kind of make adjustments to improve it going into the future. So.
Well, I just want to give a quick shout out to Ed and your team on all the work that was done to really, really kind of look at the structure of the cycle in groups and how the feedback that you did take to make it beneficial for everyone. So I know that there was a lot of back end work and a lot of thought that was put into it. So I just want to give a kudos to the team for doing that. So. Real quick, Ed, do you mind kind of going back to from the beginning as to where to find this? Because I know that people sometimes just go to maybe special ed tab. I know Kelly went ahead and popped in a link, but just to kind of take people step by step. Thank you.
Sure. So, you know, when you land on kind of like the special populations page, which you just go to review and support. Of course, my internet is not super fast at the moment, but and then so it should be in here.
DMS, yeah.
Yeah, and go under DMS, and I can drop this link directly in the chat too, so they can get right to this page. But once you go under special populations, review and support, DMS, and then it's right here. But
Perfect.
I'll drop the link in the chat to get directly to here.
The chat might only go to us.
Okay.
So I think Kelly did pop that same link in the Q&A though, which is helpful. But I felt like, you know, if we needed to reference people back to this recorded webinar, they could kind of see, oh, okay, here's step by step how to get it. So
yeah. So
awesome. Well, I appreciate everyone. Let me see if there's any other question in the chat. Okay, so it's just thank you. So
And what we can do too, so people have it, is I can work with Kim Brannon and we can put it in the next newsletter. We can put the link in the next newsletter.
that's a
So
good idea.
so that way, like, people will have it as a reference. So I'll shoot Kim a message for that. I don't know if we'll get it in. It might be the August one before we get it out, because I think we're already set up for the June one, but we'll get it out in the next month or so.
Yeah, it might be something that when you come back on the webinar, you know, in the future, we might kind of always have this cadence of popping that information into the newsletter. So it's a good idea. Awesome. Well, I thank you both for joining this afternoon. I appreciate it. Just a reminder to everyone that the information and the recording and then the update will be another question that was asked that I can say I will provide in the, I'll update the agenda, was how to edit Ask TED. And I'm not sure. Do you know, Ed, how they go in? I know charter schools have a different process than LEAs for entering and making sure or adding information to Ask TED, but I don't know the process.
I think they do it through the help desk. Like, I think they actually
Okay.
do it through the help desk. And I did see a comment in the Q&A. So, you know, there was a question about like, how do we plan, kind of like, how do we plan around other audits? Other scheduled audits, we work with other departments that are doing that. So, you know, if there's going to be any type of other audit, we know, you know, we try to balance those. Same reason we don't have, you know, the self-assessment window open at the same time things are open related to like EDF. We try to balance that out. Where it becomes a challenge, obviously, is anything where a district or an LEA may be selected based on data or based on just kind of like a random poll. Obviously, we don't know what that may look like 4 years from now. So to the extent possible, we try to do that. It's the same reason that we built into our system that, you know, even if a district is up for cyclical and they also, you know, data demonstrates that they should be up for targeted monitoring, we don't do both. We do some combination and make sure we cover elements of both within the same process, but we don't, you know, do double monitoring. So, you know, I appreciate that feedback and we can continue to look at it, but, you know, fiscal finance and some other, you know, excuse me, offices within the agency, they have risk assessments just like we do for targeted monitoring. And, you know, we can explore with them if, you know, when they run their risk assessments, if a district is selected that's in our cyclical schedule, you know, is there any ability to like potentially adjust so it's not within the same type of time as the group? But, you know, we'll do what we can, but there is some of those elements are outside of our control for sure.
Yeah.
You know, anything that's obviously like federally required, you know, it's outside of everyone's control. You know, we currently use a cyclical monitoring schedule where we're monitoring about 205 LEAs every year. You know, because we're doing it in a 6-year schedule. You know, we happen to do it in a 6-year schedule, which is how we designed it. But OSEP put out their guidance this past spring or past summer with the 2301, which everyone calls the 2301. They're actually requiring states now touch districts through monitoring at least once every 6 years. So not that we wanted to make the cyclical schedule longer, but even if we had that thought process, we couldn't have done it because of OSEP requirements. So just as much as we have those from OSEP, you know, Office of Budget Management puts certain requirements on fiscal and finance, and, you know, Grants Administration puts, you know, requirements on finance. There's different things like that with accountability too. So we'll continue, like I can say, is we'll continue to try to be as mindful as we can, but we don't necessarily have the ability to kind of control or predict all of it. So
I think that's a good thing to point out, that we're trying to, you know, have it in the back of our minds, but it's some of it's beyond our control. So that's good to put out. So, well, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording and make sure that, you know, all of this gets done. But I just want to make sure I thank everyone for joining us today and be watching for all of